I hope it's alright that we're doing the ASMR screen today, kind of. I wanted to have a good time, cozy time reading the stories, and I thought that since you're mainly gonna be listening anyway, it would make sense for me to have my model off. Also, today, we're having some slight internet issues as YouTube has so kindly let me know. It's because the telecom is doing some work on my internet right now. I'm really glad that it's working enough for me to actually stream, so I'm not gonna complain at all. Thank you to the telecom overlords for allowing me to stream on this beautiful day.
Thank you so much.
Arigato. Thank you, Blake Kite. Happy 28 months. Buh! Ari is cute. Ah! The truth can be scary sometimes. あ、いや。before we get into the horror stories, I picked out quite a few. Surprisingly, there was a lot of new posts on the Reddit today, so I was quite happy about that. That's good timing. So you're gonna get the fresh stories straight from the tap. Um, but before that, let's do the tiny little mini Zatsudan. I accidentally overslept my classes today, and I felt horrible about it all day. Let's see. Then I played with my dog. I hid cheese all throughout the house, and he had to search it. He really likes playing that. His tail was wagging like crazy, and I hope he did find all the cheese. I tried to keep track of the locations, but I guess if he didn't find some, oh no, no, I'm kidding. I'm very sure that he found all of it. um, then I pet him. I pet him a lot. Um, didn't you go to bed extra early because you didn't want to miss class? Yes, and I ended up sleeping extra long instead. Ah. I know, I know. He's not a retriever though. Well, I guess, isn't it Labrador retriever? Hmm. Ito. And then my grandma's been getting her heater fixed. And she was so mad today because the people who are drilling in her wall to install the heater, well, they caused a mess. They caused some dust. And she is so angry at them. And she was like, "Oh, Adi, I cleaned up the entire house yesterday after they were drilling yesterday, and I cleaned up all the dust. And then today, there's more dust." And I'm like, "Grandma, wouldn't it make more sense when they're to clean up when they're done? Because they're not done. They're just gonna come back early tomorrow and make more dust. Wouldn't it be more economical to, maybe wait a little bit, like a day or two?" um, えっと、today I made the mistake of watching the short I posted, yesterday. I was watching it in bed, and my mama came by and she heard, um, and she was like, "What? You're talking bad about me again?" And I was like, "Here, listen." And it was, the one about her not being able to pronounce Eichhörnchen. Um, but she actually caught me by surprise because she could pronounce it. She was like, "No, no, no, I can say it." And then she said it, and I was like, "Oh, you can say it. Okay, now say Zwerg." And then she said Zwerg, and I was like, "Oh, no, no. How dare you use my own spells against me, Potter?" And then I brought up the Zvetchka, and she was not able to pronounce Zvetchka, so I laughed at her for that. And she was like, "Yeah, maybe you can talk about it on your stream." And I was like, "Yeah, I will. I will." um, ね. And that is the TLDR of my day today. Like, also welcome Steam. Thank you so much for coming by. ね. It's not slander if it's me doing it. How about for... Okay, guys. Let's get into the RPG horror stories, shall we? Um... This one is called DM Made Us Make Detailed High-Level Characters, Then Mind Wiped Us. From ZepDB97 on the RPG Horror Stories subreddit. I was recently playing a game with a few friends and friends of friends. The DM was a good pal of mine, but he's quite new to DMing.
Hello! Hello! Hello!
I should maybe turn the alerts a little bit quieter. でもありがとう. Wait, one moment. I didn't even have my donations tab open. ちょっと待って. The dono was so late. It's okay. It's the internet. I know. Thank you, Sexito. I was planning on sending one of my D&D Karen stories, but it ended up being 22 donos. Instead, Ari gets the amount that it would have taken to send the story. 本当にありがとう. Maybe in the future I'll make like a Google Doc. Not a Google Doc. What's it called? Google form. Google form, but for like, oh, submit your horror story. ね. Well, there's your jump scare for the day. Alright, let's start the story again. I was recently playing a game with a few friends and friends of friends. The DM is a good pal of mine, but he is quite new to DMing, this being his second experience running a game. I was his first GM in a TTRPG, so I'm very proud of him for giving it a go. He comes from a theater background and was very keen on us creating deep, detailed backstories tied to his homebrew world. When we were creating our characters, he also asked us to create level 6 characters. The other players I spoke to and I were very excited by the prospect of playing these characters and how they would integrate with the world and story, which was a big highlight of the game the GM ran, even though it was a chore to make a level 6 character, especially since there were 2 new players who needed a lot of support. One of the players even went out of his way to buy a fancy notebook to use as his character sheet and spellbook for his wizard. However, the GM also asked us to prepare level 1 character sheets for the same characters. This was a bit of a red flag, on top of it being more admin work, but the DM refused to tell us why. In addition, when chatting to him, he mentioned that some of the players would be annoyed with him in the first session, but again refused to elaborate. Fast forward to the first session, and in their opening monologue, the GM says that the story we're going to be exploring is not about who you are, but about who you will become. Uh-oh. First thing we do is we're asked to make saving throws using our level 6 characters. Except only the paladin with their aura of protection is actually asked because no one else is able to pass the wisdom saving throw DC of 25. Or for some yet undiscovered story reasons. We're then all told that our characters' memories are gone, and we're now level 1. We spent the rest of the session trying to switch gears and roleplay as essentially hollow shells of characters, while looking for information about what happened to us. Long story short, we had our powers siphoned somehow, and it looks like we aren't getting our memories or levels back anytime soon. with the GM even telling us he'd be happy if we wanted to level up differently from how we did previously. Presumably, as we will be leveling up naturally back to level 6. Afterwards, I had a chat with some of the other players, and we agreed we were pretty frustrated with this. If we were told from the outset that we were going to be mind wiped and only had to make level 1 characters, that would have been fine, but so far it seems like a lot of wasted effort and a big departure from the experiences we were all expecting and looking forward to. I've spoken to the GM, and he is said to trust him, and that it will all be fine in the end. Am I insane for being annoyed about this? How could the GM have handled character creation better to avoid this frustration? Should I just shut up and hope for the best? We have our second session tomorrow, so fingers crossed we get some sort of satisfying resolution or progress. Now, to give my personal 2 cents on the stories, I do think it's pretty annoying. Because I understand if it was done for a 1 session bit. Like, I think that would have been a really interesting way to have the characters meet. Like, instead of doing the, oh, you all meet in a tavern, just have a session where they all lost their memory. And maybe they need to fight their way through an encounter to get their memories back. And that would really bring the player characters together. And so, they'd go on this little journey, on this little fight maybe, to get their memories back. And then by the end of the first session, when they have them back, or by the start of the second session, the characters would be really well bonded through that experience. But if you're planning on not giving them their memories or their character levels back for a long time, like if that is the main goal of the campaign, why would you have them make their character in advance, right? Like, let's say, for example, you take away their entire personality for what you expect is going to be like a 100-session campaign. Why not have them figure out their personality and details about their past as you go? I'm not sure what the reason would be to predetermine it. I know, let's see what you guys have to say. Would have made a bit more sense if the GM let them play as their 6th level characters for some time. Yeah, I think that could have made it better, but also I think that would have made it sting if it got taken away for the rest of the campaign too. Since level 6 characters with detailed backstories and personalities are kind of hard to create. Also, let's see. Simple, if you're a DM trying to do a story like that, probably just say create level 1 characters and they all meet in a dungeon or something similar to Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, I think so. That would have been the better way to handle that kind of story. I would have made it so that there's a borderline unwinnable encounter at level 1. And when they're about to drop, have their level 6 character kick back in and take over, to show that the level 6 character will come back eventually. Oh, that's an interesting concept. Although, I'm more concerned about like the whole losing your memories and essentially your personality thing of getting your memories wiped. Maybe the levels are not the biggest part of it after all. I like the idea. It comes down to the execution. I'm kind of interested to see what the DM is cooking. Well, depends on their skill of storytelling and their story plan overall, I'd say. Now, it is only their second experience DMing from what we heard, so well, maybe we'll one day see an update post. Then? Let me. Oh, my drink is empty. Oh no! It's okay. I can power through. Let me read the next story for you, and this one is tagged as extra long, titled How D&D Ruined an 18-Year Friendship. From user the Barb Fighter on r/RPG Horror Stories. I would like to start with D&D is a game, and it is ridiculous that this has come this far. One of my closest friends wanted to host a D&D session with 8 players. Me being fairly new at the game and knowing some of my friends are playing, I wanted to play so I can hang out. I say fairly new cause I knew the basic mechanics but didn't know what cantrips were. So I played a barbarian, later leveling in fighter. Little did I know that I would fall in love with the game. At first it was good. The only issue I had was that half the table weren't paying attention until it was their turn. Then take a while to decide what to do. So sometimes our whole 8 to 10 hour session was just clearing 2 to 3 rooms. 8 to 10 hour session. Introducing the protagonist. They will be referred to as V. They were the DM's significant other. Outside of D&D, I would say we got along. We would just have casual conversations and jokes. Not a lot of people liked them, and the DM's parents didn't either. I always felt as if V was pushing the DM away from all of his friends, but they have been together for so long that we just tolerated and brushed it off. Who knew V would do the same in D&D? They actively go against the party and get special treatment from the DM. They like the more roleplay side of D&D, so they would go on these 45 minutes to an hour and a half adventures by themselves or with V's friend. What makes it worse, V blatantly fudges their roles. Sometimes they would throw themselves into danger, and being the DM's significant other, they would make sure V wouldn't die. This was going on the whole time we played for almost 2 years. Example, when V would cast Chaos Bolt pre-2024, they would always roll doubles, so it would leap. We would try to roleplay with V, but they were acting like they can't trust us. Or if something happened to them while away, V would not tell us. When we bring this up to the DM to avoid conflicts between party, it seems like he did nothing. The first incident was when we were exploring a temple for one of the gods. We come across a room full of mind-controlled creatures. It seems like they were moving into the center of the room with a demonic symbol on the ground. After we cleared the room, V decided that she needed to check out the portal in the middle. So she tried to forcefully take one of the 2 NPCs that were guiding us out with her into the portal and jumped into the portal without discussing what to do. Once inside, V is greeted by the god of hunger. Now, with the party having just been in a tough fight and the majority of us being sub 10 to 20 HP and low on resources, we hesitated. Every once in a while, the DM would describe how the demon is slowly pulling V in, to the point where V is in his open jaws and they're slowly closing on V. So the 3 of us took the risk and saved V. It was like 6 to 7 turns for this to happen. Clearly seeing if this was anyone else, the DM would have just killed them. In other occasions, the DM didn't have a problem killing other players from lesser encounter with spells that, if you drop to 0, you outright die. The second incident, the whole party arrived to the town and started shopping. While we're shopping, V whispers to the DM, telling him that they are going to get all the side quests. after we're talking as a team without V, V hands them out, keeping the one with the biggest reward for themselves. I speak up and tell V, since it has a higher reward, I can go with you since it might be dangerous. And out of character, it's kind of backhanded that you just gave us the lesser quest. V starts getting angry and starts raising her voice and mentions, I want to roleplay by myself. I always share the gold anyways. I told V I was totally fine with roleplaying too, but it's disrespectful that you get to pick the quest and give out the rest, knowing the more difficult quests give an item. We know this from a different set of side quests where the team of 5 players did a quest and split 500 gold, while V did a side quest and got a rare magic item that was sold to a different player. By the end of it, V was screaming, so they stepped away. While V is away, we go complete the side quest. Once V returns, the DM starts the other quest. Long story short, what I knew was going to happen happened. Fudged rolls and special treatment and almost 2 hours taken from everyone else. V went down, but then a couple of turns later they say, I forgot I had a shield, so the DM lets them get back up. After the session, they take a step back. At this time, V is being passive-aggressive, making up random events to keep the DM from playing. Also, on the off weekends, they start hosting their own sessions. Come to find out, V was DMing and invited everyone except me and AL. He'll come in later. Which only lasted 1 session. Since the schedule started getting inconsistent because of this, I started to DM on the side. The third incident. After some time, V returns to play with us again. The first session back, it went back to the old ways, where V wasn't engaged and took forever deciding what to do, and continues to fudge rolls. Once we completed the main mission, we got to the elders to report our findings. Once we get to the castle, V dips, so the rest of the party goes to talk to them. Finding out one of the 3 elders was working with the bad guy. After interrogating him, we find out who he is working with, the bad guys, and doing it to protect him and his family. He said he was feeding/enslaving his people to a vampire. We let the elders decide their fate. Death/DM decision, and go clear the dock where they are importing and transporting the slaves. Meeting up with V and filling them in, they dip again. We clear the docks, and while this is going on, V releases the elder. We got out from clearing the dock to meet up with V again, but now the elder is with them. In character, another player, AL, tells them he's not getting on the boat, he's a traitor and enslaved his people to die. V responds with, you all do. AL responds, then V says, whatever, I attack him. DM intervenes and tells the party there is no PvP, so I step up and say, he killed his people to protect himself, I can't let him travel with us. V is clearly upset now. Well, I'll find my own way off the island then, separating the party further. The next morning, AL and myself receive a message about how hurt V is and how we're disrespectful inside and outside D&D, pretty much gaslighting us. We tried to reply, but she removed us as friends on Discord. So AL and I write up a little something to apologize for our behavior outside of D&D and mention if she had a problem with it, then they should have spoken up because this is how we joke around as friends. But then explained how we felt playing D&D with them and that we just have 2 D&D playstyles, so it's best if we don't play D&D together. After sending it to the DM on Discord, V is replying with a story and it's just the same thing they mentioned. So I break it down paragraph by paragraph to explain everything. During this time, AL is getting more messages from V through Discord. One being something along the lines of, "You were the last one of his friends," exposing my theory that V has been pushing away all of the DM's longtime friends. It's been over a year now. I still talk to DM's parents because I've known them so long I call them mom and dad. And funnily enough, the story ends there. That's a quite strange sentence to end it with, but apparently the friendship went away and they don't talk to the DM anymore. Well, that was certainly that was certainly a story. Favoritism in any campaign is definitely a campaign killer. Especially when one player is getting incredibly long solo scenes. I couldn't imagine having to sit through that. You know, part of D&D is caring when another player gets a solo scene, right? You want to be interested in the other character's story. The kind of players that don't care unless you say their character's name, you don't want to have them. But when another player is going off on their own and their character is the only one present for 2 hours of playtime, I think I might fall asleep. I don't think anyone can bring themselves to have that level of attachment to a different person's character. And of course, role fudging is a different horror story in and of itself. It's always, well, inconsistencies when ruling are also a problem because if the DM doesn't have any issue killing other player characters, then maybe it's not the best to play with a person who wouldn't be okay with that happening to their character, right? The only favoritism in our campaign is the pets we adopt. The wife would make the DM sleep on the couch otherwise. Splitting the party should be avoided at all costs outside of errands. Well, I think it's fine to split the party as long as the attention is divided equally. Let's say, for example, you are attending like an event and there's lots of NPCs. And different people want to talk to different NPCs or like, you know, go and investigate different areas. I think it's fine to do that as long as you give each player like equal opportunity and equal time to do that. Of course, it shouldn't go on for hours, but like let's say you have 4 players and you give them all like 20 minutes to do their own thing. I do solo scenes outside of my actual session. I ask at the end of the session what they are going to do and I give them a summary of their adventure after a couple of days. That's a pretty good way to handle it. Also, 8 to 10 hour session, that takes some commitment. Yeah, I also startled when I saw that in the text. 8 to 10 hour sessions is insane. I mean, it can certainly work. I think if I was really into a campaign, I would like that too, but if 2 of those hours is just one of the players playing and not the rest, I don't think it would be that fun. One of my all-time favorite campaigns had a frequent solo scenes that were deeply involved with our stories. It was great because it was fair and it felt like every character had life. This ain't it. Yeah, I definitely agree. Solo scenes can be good, especially if they relate to a character's backstory or like they're important NPCs from their story or quest. And I don't think the entire party needs to be present for everything, right? Like, say, for example, a player that has been searching for their wife on their quest finds their wife after 3 years apart. The party doesn't need to be right there breathing down on their necks when they have their tearful reunion, you know? Yeah. We used to have weekend long sessions starting Friday afternoon and ending Sunday evenings, only interrupted by sleep and food. Wow. Wow, that sounds like a fever dream. A 4 hour sessions with 6 players is my absolute max. The DM doing 8 players and ignoring 7 would quickly kill my enjoyment. Oh, right. Did it say that? Oh my gosh. I completely read over the fact that it was 8 players. 8 players in an 8 hour session, and one of them gets 2 hours to themselves? Oh, yeah, no, this is bad. This is like way bad. It was 8 players. Yeah, I kind of just read over it at the start, but it was 8 players. Wow. I don't think I could play with 8 players, period. I wouldn't get a word out. I know. Um, I'm debating whether to get myself a drink, because I feel like I kind of need one for my voice, but at the same time, getting up and stopping the horror stories is a hassle. ちょっと待って. I'll make a little sign so that if someone comes in, they know. Um, let me make a little sign. Okay, there we go. We download that transparent PNG. Amazing transparent PNG. I'll get myself a caramel milkshake that I've been saving. Oh wait, I forgot to download the PNG. Ah. I do have, let's see, I've got like 4 stories left. So actually, yeah, I think I'll definitely need the drink. Sounds tasty, yeah, it is pretty tasty. Well, PNG unexpectedly large. Alright, I'll be right back.
arigato. Arigato.
No, Patrick, a super isn't
Arigato.
free or half off just because I'm getting a drink. Arigato ne. Thank you,
Arigato.
Mark. Also, thank you, 6 half off. It's not half off. Thank you, Fine. Also, thank you, Sitsan. Free download since ID is gone. That is decidedly not how it works. Alright. Yeah. ちょっと待って. Let me prepare my drink adequately. What? My very first D&D session ended with my dwarf fighter being possessed by an evil axe, killing the rest of the party, and walking into the forest to look for more victims. That sounds like slightly bad GMing. Also, thank you, Blade Guide. Dono 25% off sale. There is no such thing. Oh no, I made a grave and continuous mistake. Oh god. Refund? No, please, I can't give a YouTube refund. Please don't refund your super sticker. I just made the mistake of inhaling like pure caramel powder. Oh no. Oh gosh, wait, let me quickly mute while I shake this. Okay, actually wait, it's not that loud. Caramel powder, what is I making? Caramel milkshake. It's milk mixed with caramel powder. Yeah, but I wanted to sniff it, not thinking that the powder would go all in my nose and give me a shot of straight caramel air. Yeah. Caramel air. Alright. Let me see, is it thoroughly mixed? Eddie, that's not how you do tsukali. No, good thing I don't intend to do tsukali. Tastes really good though. You can never miss with caramel flavor. Yeah. Anyhow, my throat feels nice and moist. So let's get on to the next story. This story was posted by new number 2, and it's titled Drunken NPCs Ruin Tabletop Session. I've been running games for over 33 years, and in that time I've definitely seen my fair share of craziness and derailment. However, in all those years, there's one story that is the pinnacle of what the effedness, and quite frankly, I've never heard of this happening to anyone else. Let me start by saying that I often run obscure or very niche games such as Tales from the Floating Vagabond. It came from the Late 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 Show, Bureau 13, etc. I also run GURPS, Call of Cthulhu Cult, Mage the Ascension, and many other unusual games, so I've seen it all, or so I thought. Our story begins during a session of Hoodoo Blues that had been ongoing for a few months. Myself as GM and 7 regular players. For context, Hoodoo Blues is a southern gothic supernatural type of game. I had two friends at the time who had been players of mine in diverse other games throughout the years, and they were interested in playing Hoodoo Blues. I explained that the PCs were already in the middle of a huge interconnected plotline, and that I wouldn't be able to have them join mid-chronicle, but I had two NPCs that the PCs were about to meet during the next session, and, if they'd be interested, I'd allow them to portray them after I provided a guide and essentially spoon-fed their part into the plot. This couple, who were a married couple, were enthusiastically excited and said that they'd be honored to accept the NPC roles, which would allow them to get a feel for Hoodoo Blues. Game night arrives and all my regular players are deep into the plot and RPing their hearts out. Several scenes could have won acting awards, however, 2 hours into the session, my NPC couple finally arrives and disrupts the already intense scene currently taking place. So we all take a brief break and I remind the NPCs what I need them to do. It was at this moment that the male, let's call him Cletus, starts drinking. A lot, whilst waiting for his time to shine. For context, the two NPCs were a butler and maid, respectively, who were secretly leaking sensitive information out to a rival of their employer. Their one job was to offer information to the PCs for a price, and act generally odd during the dinner the PCs were having at the mansion. What actually happened was a cavalcade of cascading crap that upset the entire session because Cletus and his wife, let's call her Matilda, started off playing the NPCs decently enough. However, were by this point deep in their literal, not figurative cups. At first I thought they were just adding to the basic information I'd given them about the NPCs, however, I was so wrong. As the scene stretched on, I realized that whoever these damn people were, they were not who I had written. Also, it's worth noting that they kept getting up from the table to go into my kitchen to, as Cletus put it, converse privately in character. Fine, I often take players privately aside to impart information. This back and forth went on to the point where one of the PCs in character said, "Oh damn, if my staff acted like that, I'd get rid of him faster than a jackrabbit on a date." We could hear Cletus and Matilda loudly and clearly by this point, and everyone including me had about a damn enough. I called for them out of character, and when I continued to hear them engaged in heated conversation, I thought that they were having an out-of-character spousal spat. Wrong. As I went into the kitchen, my eyes simply stared, as I watched these two for a full 2 minutes continue arguing drunkenly in character about things they'd created on the spot and had no relevance whatsoever to my narrative. I waved for my 7 regular players to witness this as well, and there we stood watching a full-blown 2-person drunken LARP happening in my kitchen. We became invested in whatever the hell convoluted and non-sequential storyline they were participating in for a good 20 minutes before we realized that it would be best to end the session and just retcon this entire night. We then waited after I announced loudly that the game was over for the evening, and what do you think happened? More in-depth exchanges between Cletus and Matilda. By this point we were all amazed, and although slightly annoyed, we were just laughing at how insane the whole thing had become. I finally said, "Hey y'all, game's been over for half an hour now." And Cletus, as serious as a heart attack, looks me dead in the face and says, "We're in the middle of a scene, man." I stood there mouth agape like a fish for a full 5 beats before just saying, "Give me your keys, man. Y'all are spending the night. Sorry for interrupting your scene." I shook my head chuckled, went out to see my regular players off, and vowed to never let anyone again play my NPCs. Cletus and Matilda were never allowed to play in my Hoodoo Blues game again. Well, that story is, interesting. I don't know how anyone can get so truly drunk to just ignore the purpose that they came for and get into like a 40-minute in-character argument. Honestly, this might be one of the stories where I'm like, did this actually happen? But, I do think that D&D, and a few of the players drinking alcohol don't mix. If you want to have a silly game day where everyone drinks, that's fine. But if everyone else is taking it seriously, and then two people are just drinking and goofing off, it's not gonna end well. I think this is just a don't let people drink at your table if you're not ready for drunk people at your table. Which in this case, the DM didn't want drunk people at their table. Yeah. Then the next story is from Zoo's Waves, called World's Longest Random Encounter. It was a time when I was trying to join an online D&D game because I was tired of my first group. Eventually, I joined an ongoing Curse of Strahd game run by friends, and I joined as a new guy from outside. The team seemed fun, and I always wanted to give Curse of Strahd a try. The party consisted of fighter, paladin, sorcerer, homebrewed race and homebrewed class, what was basically just cleric/warlock multiclass, and me, a battlesmith artificer. First thing that surprised me was that DM said yes to me being an artificer. I always wanted to try this class, but they said no guns and no to a steel defender being a robot-like construct. DM argued that gadgets and steampunk machines didn't fit the themes, and I could only remain an artificer if I flavored all my gadgets and steel defender as just magic with crystals and medieval smithing. I started to have my doubts, but decided to play with this group once to see if I still vibe with them. Since I joined an ongoing campaign, I had to wait 30 minutes for the other players to find my artificer. When it was my time to shine and introduce myself, only 2 players were paying attention while 2 others were goofing around instead of listening to my introduction. I gaslit myself into believing that they simply needed time to get used to me. Then DM rolls a dice. Random encounter, dire wolves. Time for my artificer to show her skills in a quick combat, I thought. I quickly shot one wolf with a crossbow. Ordered my not really steel defender to attack and ended my turn in a minute. Mind you, it was my first time as artificer. During my round, other players were commenting everything that happened. Since it was an online Discord game, I basically had to shout through them so that the DM even knew what I was doing. Everyone else's turn, including DMs, took much, much longer than 2 minutes because they took every opportunity to joke, comment in-game and outside of game on events, and chat in their native languages. And I think one of them was drunk. Or they were just deciding what spell to use for a solid 3 minutes. Not only that, but the dire wolves were tough enough for me to burn through all my level 3 spell slots to only kill 1 of 8 wolves. I checked time, and after almost 3 hours, all 8 wolves fell to 5 adventurers and 2 NPCs that were accompanying us. I made a cheap excuse and left the call. Next day, I sent a huge complaint to the DM about his world's longest random encounter. He dismissed it all by saying, it's just our table style of play. We like to joke and chat during the sessions to keep the mood up. I tried to explain to him that it was not appropriate to get so distracted during combat, but he shrugged off everything I said. When I asked if 3-hour-long encounters is normal, he said, it would take less time if you guys focused your targets, dismissing my complaint yet again. After realizing that DM doesn't see a problem with it, I told the whole group that I'm leaving and continued my search for a new D&D group. Well, I think that group sounds like a nightmare to play with. I always take myself for more of a serious player, probably. I don't think I'd be able to stand if people were just talking over me while I was trying to play just to joke and chat about out-of-game things. But, to be fair, I don't think it's your place as a player who just came for only one session to tell the DM, this, and this is wrong with your game, and argue with the DM after they say that this is just how they play their game and that's how they have been playing their game. Because if you see a group like that and you hate playing in that session so bad that you need to leave the call, just leave the game. You can't expect an entire group that was actively participating in this chaos. I mean, one of the people was even apparently drunk, to just whip up into shape just because you tell them to. I feel like it wouldn't have even needed to take the whole rant, because just because you tell this chaotic of a party like, hey guys, I want to play a serious game, they're not going to change their entire playstyle just for you or become good, deep role players that are always in character and never talk out of character just from one session to another. So there's no hope of you becoming happy in that campaign anyway. Then the next story is from Roki 9902. Rand lost a 12-year friend over a single magic item in my Curse of Strahd campaign. So honestly, at this point, I'm probably just talking for the sake of it. But it feels good to type it all out. I'm running a Curse of Strahd game. We've been going for about 6 or 7 sessions now. 5 players, all currently level 5. I'm using the companion guide as well as a couple of homebrewed tweaks like sunlight being truly rare, player-generated light being dimmed, and a few other things that don't matter for this thread. We're having a blast, the tension is super high, and several players have come to me after sessions to say it was the best D&D session they've ever been part of. I'm super honored. Enter a friend of mine. We'll call him Doug, obviously not his real name. Doug's a long-time player, about 16 years or so, has DM'd himself. I even played in one of his campaigns, and he loves to min-max his builds. I have no problem with that. Min-max to your heart's content. It's your character as long as it's within the rules. He's playing a barbarian, all 5 levels in barbarian so far. And from the start of the campaign, he's been trying to start issues. The party reaches the first village, Barovia, and goes to the general store. One of the NPCs notices he's an elf and, as the dialogue suggests, starts asking him a lot of questions out of nowhere. Just an innocent, curious kid. I roleplay him as such. Doug straight up cold clocks him out of nowhere. Alright, you cold clock him. The kid yelps in pain and runs behind the counter where his uncle is. The uncle apologizes for his nephew's behavior but asks Doug's character to leave while the others are still allowed to shop. I didn't think it was too big of a deal, so the session moves forward. Later, the kid is sent to kidnap Irina while she and her brother take their father to church to be buried. Doug spots this and attacks. The kid tries to run after a couple of rounds, and Doug chases him down and tries to execute him. Okay, a bit extreme since the kid is running away, but sure. The kid escapes into the mist and Doug goes back to protect Irina. We end that session and return a week later. More stuff happens. They have an epic fight with Rodin, Strahd's brother, where Doug actually tries to kill Irina, saying, "If Strahd wants her and might win, then I'll just tear the roots out of the dirt." I loved it. It was a huge twist no one had ever done in my Curse of Strahd games. Totally flipped my plans and I had to adapt. No problem. Irina gets away, kidnapped by Rodin. Next session, Doug instantly says he's going back to the general store to burn it down. He asks if anyone is inside, then says he's locking the doors. I tell him no one's inside. The store owner and the kid fled Barovia after the failed attempt to kidnap Irina, for the supposed good of the village. Doug says, "Dang, I wanted to burn them alive. I'll burn it down anyway." Cue player outrage. The others start getting angry, asking what would happen if he did that. I explain, well, you might get kicked out of Barovia for burning down the general store and make enemies for the rest of the campaign. More than you already have by default. Consequences for your actions. Despite the protests, he keeps trying. I'm about to let him do it when the others finally convince him not to. Crisis sort of averted. Fast forward several sessions, that was around session 2. We're about to start our next game tomorrow when he texts me about a magic item I gave the party early on. I usually let players pick 2 to 3 common or uncommon items if we start above level 1. Oops, I accidentally muted. He asks if he can trade it with the Vistani for a different item. He wants to because it's no longer useful, and he picked it mainly for thematic reasons, a moonglaive. I tell him no, he can't trade it. I haven't allowed any other players to trade items like that, and it wouldn't make sense in the setting. He assumes that means I won't let him sell it, but I say he can sell it. Instead, he replies that he wants to go Vlad on the next NPC who annoys him. And since the group will be acting as guards during the Blazing Sun Festival in Vallaki, he'll have the opportunity. He adds, everyone can place bets on when the tip starts glowing through the top of the NPC. What? I reply, how about you don't? I tell him that since he's tried to disrupt the campaign like this multiple times, that this continued behavior would be a fast track to getting banned from the game. I followed up with, I really like your character and how you've played him otherwise, but that's not cool. It feels like you're taking it out on me for not letting you trade the item and the other players because the world will react to that. He says you gotta do what you gotta do. I respond, no, I don't want to kick you out. I just need you to be more considerate of the other players and respect the world I'm trying to run for them. He goes nuclear, messaging a mutual friend claiming I kicked him out of the party and saying they shouldn't come to the next session either. Screenshots prove I never said that. The friend is still coming, but now Doug wants to be removed from all group chats and tells me to lose his number. His final message: "You seem to have a few issues with how I roleplay, but I won't be controlled. I quit." So now I'm done a player, but D&D goes on. Guess I get to kill off his character however I want. All of this because I wouldn't give him a new item after his own choice stopped being useful. I kind of want him to come back, but mostly I just don't want it to end like this. I've known the guy for 12 years. He's the one who got me into D&D in the first place. It's very strange that they were friends for 12 years and the guy goes so crazy in a campaign. I wonder, since the person got him into D&D, have they not played together before? Because with that kind of player, isn't it... I mean, wouldn't it be obvious that they're that kind of player in other campaigns? Because I recognize the type from other horror stories, you know, it's the type that just wants to be edgy and wants to kill NPCs for any perceived slight against their character. You know, they're just playing not entirely a murder hobo because, you know, they're not killing randomly, but they're just playing a very, very, very aggressive character with no regards for morals or for how actions have consequences, right? And you don't want those kind of players in your game. Because, well, if the rest of the party doesn't want the game to turn into a slaughter fest where they just kill everything they come across, you can't really play with that person in your party. So, I don't know. It's, definitely strange that they should develop such a bad playstyle so suddenly. I feel like, yeah, the person was definitely trying to cause trouble in the party and just do whatever he wanted for the sake of agency, you know? Hmm. Did they say that they were a DM before? They could be a 10 out of 10 DM and a minus 100 out of 10 player. One of my DMs was exactly the same. Minute they got to be a character, they ran off from the group, threatened every NPC, set fire to a lot of things, and blamed others. Oh, is that like a common thing? Hmm. Yeah. And then our final story for today is by Jujubes_C. The player that was always complaining about problem players becomes one. Hello, I wanted to share the story with this app. I need help with the situation. For context, there are 7 of us in the group right now. We're all between 20 and 24 years old, studying and working, and we try to play every Saturday. I've been the game master of an RPG group that's been running regular campaigns for about 5 or 6 years now, with a few consistent players over time. During this period, I've been dealing with a serious issue involving one particular player who's become increasingly difficult to handle, to the point that playing with him has become almost unbearable. It all started back when we used the generic system and later moved to a custom system I created with help from everyone at the table. Each person contributed in some way with ideas, reviews, or suggestions, but the system's core, its foundation, and final decisions were always my responsibility. Still, this player developed a kind of owner of the game attitude, acting like he knows better than I do and constantly interfering. Important to note that I've been working on a major update in the system, and I decided on reducing a lot of the interferences from other players here, which is kind of sad because it was nice having everyone involved in this part. During sessions, he cuts me off, answers questions that should have been directed to the GM, and corrects me with wrong information, then insists he's right after I clarify. When I'm forced to correct him, he gets irritated or takes it personally. This has been going on for years. In one campaign, because of story elements, he created a secondary character who happened to be the sister of an important NPC. That character eventually died, and the NPC joined the party. When his original character returned, he developed an obsession with the NPC, forcing a romantic relationship between them. At the end of that campaign, when almost every character died, the NPC also died, and he reacted very emotionally, crying and complaining to me for days. That already showed a level of attachment and blurring between game and reality that worried me. Last year, things got worse. A new player joined who later became my girlfriend. And naturally, I gave her more attention since she was both new to the system and to the group. That triggered obvious jealousy from him. He started demanding my attention, sending me long messages accusing me of not understanding his character or treating him like an idiot and of favoring the new player. He even said he would allow me to give her attention now, but not in future campaigns, as if I were supposed to distribute my attention according to his rules. Over time, he became increasingly hostile and passive-aggressive towards me and the others. He sulks, complains, gives up on conversations saying whatever, and any attempt to talk things out turns into an argument. He always plays the victim, everything is everyone else's fault, and any criticism is taken as a personal attack. Right now, the atmosphere with him is terrible. He makes jokes and teases others, but can't take any teasing about his own character. When he makes mistakes or bad decisions, he gets angry if anyone comments on it. He spends ages thinking about his actions, sometimes half a session, just deciding on a move. And if we try to move things along, he gets upset. Everyone agrees that his behavior ruins the pacing and the atmosphere. On top of that, he was hired to make a short animation as an opening for our campaign, something he agreed to and was paid for. But it's been 8 months and he still hasn't delivered anything with no visible progress. His excuse is that he has too much going on even though he took the job and got paid. He even tried to charge me double my share, claiming we'd agreed on that. When he does work, he uses questionable techniques which only added to everyone's frustration. We've tried talking to him several times, both me and the other players. He never acknowledges his behavior. Instead, he deflects, twists the conversation, and goes back to playing the victim. Even when he promises to change, the same issues resurface within days. At this point, nobody has the patience anymore. Old players, new ones, and even people who've left the group all notice the same pattern. Many of you might wonder why he's still part of the group. The truth is simple, because despite everything, he's our friend. And I still struggle to just cut him off. As a GM, I have a hard time separating personal relationships from the game, something I've been working on in therapy. Right now, playing with him is impossible. I have no desire to interact or run sessions calmly anymore. Things have gone far beyond the game. There's jealousy, manipulation, and stubbornness involved. He seems to have an unhealthy attachment, maybe to me, or the dynamic we used to have, and it's turned into a cycle of resentment and tension. Everyone's tried to help him, adjusting the group and our interaction, but nothing works. Honestly, I don't know what to do anymore. Whether I should remove him from my table, try another talk, or find another way, but the truth is we can't keep going like this. He's turned something that should be fun into a stressful, draining environment. And it's wearing everyone down, including me. Yeah, I would just say don't play with that person. Just because you're friends doesn't mean that you have to play D&D together. Because if someone is ruining the experience for you and for everyone else, you don't owe it to them to keep them in the game. It's a simple game, really, of like, why ruin 7 or 6 people's experience for the sake of one player who's causing trouble and who's arguing with the DM? I just don't think it's logical, so I think the best advice in that situation would just be, you know, even though they are your friend, maybe they have to go from the campaign. Mm. The solution is right there. Offered to resurrect his NPC waifu in exchange to complete the animation. Honestly, just get a refund. Tell him, like, hey, if the animation isn't done by this date, just give us a refund. Um, kicking him out now, though, will kill that friendship. Well, maybe if they're the kind of person to cause trouble like that, not care about their friends' like enjoyment of the game, and cause stress for their friends and make it so that they can't enjoy their hobby anymore, and then get upset when they're not allowed to do that anymore, maybe it's just not that good of a friendship to begin with. Um, I doubt that money is ever gonna get returned and bet he spent it on other stuff. True, but, come on, he can pay it out of his own money, right? Money for like art commission that you didn't do isn't necessarily your money. Hmm. Nemo, that was the last story that I had to share today. I like reading RPG horror stories, it's pretty fun. Yeah, let me take another sip of my drink. Hmm. There we go. Delicious artificial caramel flavor. It's fun to listen to you read them. Yeah, I do like reading them. I know. It's not as much nowadays anymore, but I used to be really watching D&D horror story like videos or D&D lore videos about monsters and stuff pretty much every single night for a while to fall asleep. Nowadays I think I've moved on to watching documentaries instead, but it's always nice to revisit the RPG horror stories. None? I hope this helped you relax a little bit. Mm. Ooh, I'm not going to pretend I haven't had tough decisions to make. I once had a troublesome player in my campaign for 2 years just because they were married IRL to another player. Oh, I mean, when marriage comes into the play, that's pretty hard. I can understand it in that situation. Demo, demo. I will. See you for my stream tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow we're going to be playing Dead by Daylight. Let's go. It's gonna be the opposite of calm and cozy. Because for the first time, I'll be doing a stream only playing killers, so you should definitely come by. Thank you so much for coming. I'll see you tomorrow. 愛してるパパパパ。じゃん。いつでも I love you 君に take a kiss me